In 1970, a single factory worker in Ohio could buy a home, support a family of 4, put both kids through college and retire with a pension, all on one income, without a college degree. Today, that same job, adjusted for inflation, barely covers rent in most American cities. Not because people got lazier. Not because the job disappeared entirely. Because something underneath the entire economy quietly shifted, and almost nobody agreed to it out loud. Here's the number that should stop you. Since 1979, American worker productivity has grown by over 60%. Meanwhile, average worker compensation grew by less than 20% over that same period. Workers have been producing more value than ever before in history, and taking home a shrinking share of it. There was no single announcement. No headline that said, "The middle class is ending today." It didn't collapse in a crash. It's been quietly eroding for over 4 decades, one policy, one paycheck, one missed pension at a time. So the real question isn't whether the middle class is shrinking. The data already confirms that. The real question is, where exactly did all that missing value go? Why this matters now? In 1971, more than 61% of American households were considered middle income. By 2023, that number had fallen below 50%. For the first time in modern American history, the middle class is no longer the majority. This isn't a story limited to a specific industry or a specific decade of bad luck. It's touched nearly every part of daily life: housing, healthcare, education, retirement, all becoming dramatically more expensive relative to wages, at almost exactly the same time. And the effects compound generationally. Millennials, on average, hold significantly less wealth at the same age than baby boomers did, even after adjusting for inflation. Something structural changed between these generations, and most people have never seen the full mechanism laid out clearly. How the collapse actually happened, step by step. Let's break this down as a real mechanism, not a vague feeling of, things are harder now. Step 1, wages and productivity used to move together. Then they stopped. From the end of World War II through the 1970s, as workers became more productive, thanks to better technology and processes, their pay rose right alongside it. This was the economic engine that built the American middle class in the first place. Starting around 1980, that link broke. Productivity kept climbing steadily. Wages, adjusted for inflation, flattened. The extra value generated by workers didn't disappear, it increasingly flowed toward corporate profits and shareholder returns instead of paychecks. Step 2, the cost of the middle-class life itself outpaced wages. While wages stagnated, the specific costs that define middle-class stability rose dramatically faster than general inflation. Since 1980, college tuition has risen by more than 1,200%, adjusted for inflation. Healthcare costs have risen well beyond wage growth for decades. Housing prices in most major metro areas have far outpaced income growth, especially over the last 15 years. This created a scissor effect. The exact things a middle-class life is supposed to include, a home, healthcare, a college education for your kids, became dramatically more expensive, at precisely the moment wages stopped rising to match. Step 3, debt filled the gap. Here's the part that made the decline invisible for decades. When wages couldn't cover the rising cost of a middle-class lifestyle, credit filled the space instead. Credit card debt, student loans, and mortgage debt expanded enormously starting in the 1980s and accelerating through the 2000s. For a while, this made the erosion feel less painful. Families could still buy homes, still send kids to college, still maintain a middle-class appearance, just increasingly financed by debt rather than income. Total U.S. household debt crossed $17 trillion by 2024. That number isn't a sign of prosperity. It's the visible symptom of income that quietly stopped being enough. Step 4, pensions disappeared, and retirement risk shifted onto individual workers. In 1980, a majority of private sector workers with retirement plans had traditional pensions, guaranteed income for life, managed by professionals, with the company bearing the investment risk. By the 2020s, the overwhelming majority had shifted to 401k style plans instead, where employees are responsible for contributing, investing, and bearing all the market risk themselves. This shift quietly transferred an enormous amount of financial risk from corporations onto individual households, at the exact same time wage growth had already stalled. Hype versus reality, the "work hard and you'll get ahead" illusion. The cultural story most people grew up with is straightforward: work hard, be responsible, and you'll build a stable, comfortable life, just like your parents did. The uncomfortable reality is that the economic structure that made that promise achievable for previous generations has been quietly dismantled over decades, not through any single dramatic policy, but through a gradual accumulation of choices: wage productivity decoupling, exploding costs in housing and education, the shift of retirement risk onto individuals, and wealth concentration through asset ownership. Here's the irony worth sitting with. The advice to "work hard and save" isn't wrong exactly. It's simply operating on assumptions that stopped holding true for a large share of workers decades ago. Working hard on wages alone, in an economy where wealth increasingly compounds through asset ownership rather than labor, means running to keep pace with a race that quietly changed its own rules. Zooming out, why this isn't just an American story, but hits America hardest. Similar patterns of wage stagnation and wealth concentration have appeared across many developed economies, but the effect has been particularly sharp in the US, partly because American households rely more heavily on markets rather than public systems for healthcare, education, and retirement security, meaning cost increases in those areas hit household budgets directly, rather than being absorbed collectively through broader public systems. This matters far beyond individual financial stress. A shrinking, financially fragile middle class has been linked by economists to slower long-term economic growth, reduced social mobility between generations, and rising political instability, as a growing share of the population feels the basic economic promise they were raised to expect has quietly stopped being true. The closing thought. So the next time you hear that the economy is doing well, GDP is up, unemployment is low, the stock market is at a record high, remember that none of those numbers actually measure whether a household earning its living through wages is any better off than it was a generation ago. The middle class didn't collapse in a single dramatic moment anyone could point to and say, "There, that's when it happened." It eroded quietly: one decoupled wage increase, one rising tuition bill, one disappearing pension, one asset boom that mostly benefited people who already owned assets, at a time. Which leaves behind a question with no comfortable answer: if an economy can keep growing, year after year, while the people doing the actual work quietly fall further behind, what, exactly, is that growth for?